Comparing two different types of watercolour paper. First, we have an option that's on the more affordable end of the scale, and it is the 185 grams cold press Canson paper. And then we have a treat yourself option, which is the Strathmore watercolour paper 300 GSM, also cold press. Now that our test pages have fully dried, I'm just going to talk through each of the different tests and what I think about the paper. Overall, they are pretty comparable. So if you are just playing around, the Canson is really forgiving. You can do some nice wet on dry. You're getting some smooth blends happening. Your wet on wet looks really good. You can layer up, and even the masking fluid comes off really, really cleanly, and your taped edge as well. Like, that looks pretty great. So when you compare it to the Strathmore, again, these kind of techniques look very similar. This one, the kind of bleed, I found interesting, the bleed on this is a little bit more obvious on the Strathmore, so not as forgiving. So I would think for a beginner, would probably give you a headache, to be honest, just because it's a different kind of paper. I did notice overall, so like this, the Canson dried a lot quicker, and the Strathmore is still wet. And I think that's because it is a bit thicker, so it just absorbs the water in, which is a good thing, because when you do get more experience, then it allows you to just play around with the paint on the paper a little bit easier. So where you'll really see the difference is, firstly, the Strathmore is a lot thicker than the Canson, and the Strathmore just kept its shape, whereas there is a little bit of bowing and bubbling. You can see it on the back there of the Canson. You see this masked edge where we had our masking tape on? The masking tape tended to rip off the paper a little bit of the Canson, and that's just because it is going to be a thinner paper, whereas on the Strathmore, it's got a really, really crisp edge and no paper came up. Are pretty comparable. And then I did do a little painting on the two papers of the same subject. And I think the biggest difference I found when doing actual paintings is the colours seem richer on the Strathmore. I think they sit on the paper rather than absorb into the paper. So you can see here, these colours aren't as saturated, and there's the same amount of layers, etc. So these are really beautiful deep colours, whereas this feels a little bit soft. In the testing, I would recommend the Canson Montval cold press 185 GSM paper. I think it's a really good paper for beginners. It allows you to do lots of different techniques, and also it's pretty budget friendly, so you won't mind if you make a happy little accident.